The Lakota flute is more than just an instrument. It is a vital part of the culture and traditions of the Lakota people. Crafted from wood or bone, this beautiful flute produces soft, melodic sounds that carry deep meanings. Traditionally, it is played during ceremonies to honor nature, celebrate life events, and tell stories passed down through generations. In the hands of a skilled player, each note seems to dance in the air, weaving together tales of love, loss, and connection to the earth. The flute has long been used to communicate with the spirit world, inviting peace and harmony into the lives of those who listen. For the Lakota people, music serves as a bridge between their past and present. It helps preserve their history and keeps their traditions alive. During gatherings around the fire or at community celebrations, the flute becomes a voice that resonates with both joy and sorrow. As storms gather on the horizon and winds howl like angry spirits, many believe that playing the flute can soothe these elements. This belief, rooted in tradition, set the stage for an extraordinary event when one talented player faced an unexpected conflict with settlers who did not understand his ways. Their world was about to collide with his music in ways no one could foresee. As the winds began to whip the treetops and dark clouds rolled across the sky, a skilled Lakota flute player named Tyanada felt a familiar tug in his heart. He knew that this storm had the potential to stir up chaos in his community. With his flute cradled in his hands, he stepped outside, where the air crackled with tension. Tyanada took a deep breath and began to play. The notes flowed from his fingertips like water, weaving through the tumultuous winds. Each sound rose and fell like waves, echoing tales of ancestors who once danced among the clouds and spoke to the spirits of the earth. As he played, he felt a connection to the very forces of nature swirling around him. To his amazement, something extraordinary began to happen. The fierce winds that threatened to uproot trees and destroy lives seemed to soften. The tornado that loomed on the horizon paused as if captivated by Tyanada's melody. The howls of the storm transformed into a gentle lullaby, enveloping him and the landscape in a calming embrace. The villagers watched in awe as the tempest quieted before their eyes, each note blowing away their fears like leaves in the wind. They had witnessed a true miracle, music that had not just calmed the storm but brought peace to their hearts as well. While Tyanada calmed the storm with his flute, the nearby settlers were not as fortunate. The tornado, though it had been stilled at the edge of the village, still managed to wreak havoc on their land. The howling winds had uprooted trees and sent debris flying, damaging their mill, the heart of their community's economy. When the storm finally passed, the settlers emerged from their homes to survey the damage. Their once busy mill lay in ruins, with broken machinery and scattered parts littering the ground. The loss was devastating. Without the mill, they could no longer grind grain into flour for their families or sell to nearby towns. Productivity was halted, and food supplies were dwindling. Frustration bubbled among the settlers as they realized how much they depended on that mill for their livelihoods. Whispers spread like wildfire about how Tyanada's music had somehow drawn the storm away from their village, leaving them to bear its brunt instead. They felt a deep sense of injustice, believing that if he hadn't played his flute, perhaps the tornado would not have been drawn near in the first place. In their anger and desperation, they began to blame Tyanada for their losses, igniting a conflict that would change the course of their community forever. The settlers' anger began to boil over as they gathered in small groups, whispering heatedly about the devastation caused by the tornado. Many felt that Tyanada's beautifully soothing music had drawn the storm dangerously close, even if his intentions were pure. They couldn't understand how a flute, a simple instrument, could hold such power, and their desperation led them to search for someone to blame. John, a farmer who had lost everything in the storm, stood at the front of the group with clenched fists. "That flute player thinks he can charm nature," he shouted. "But look what it brought us. Our mill is ruined and we're all going hungry." The anger in his voice resonated with others who nodded in agreement. They couldn't accept that while Tyanada had found a way to calm the winds, their lives had been turned upside down. As days passed, the townsfolk's frustration grew. They felt cheated, believing that if only Tyanada hadn't played during the storm, their mill might have withstood the tornado's wrath. Rumors spread that they should seek reparations for their lost grain and productivity, and with each passing moment, the conflict surrounding Tyanada became more intense. The peaceful village atmosphere transformed into one of hostility, leaving both the settlers and Tyanada grappling with regret, anger, and fear as they faced a potential clash that threatened to tear them apart. The tension in the community reached a boiling point when the settlers decided to take formal action against Tyanada. Fueled by anger and desperation, they filed a lawsuit claiming that his flute playing had directly led to the tornado's devastation of their mill. They argued that he was responsible for their lost power and income, as the mill had been the backbone of their livelihood. In their legal documents, they detailed how the storm had disrupted not only their daily operations, but also their ability to provide for their families. The settlers claimed that uncollected prayers and blessings, once offered at the mill for good fortune, were now lost due to Tyanada's music. They felt that his actions had turned what could have been a manageable storm into a catastrophic event. As news of the lawsuit spread, it sparked further outrage among both settlers and villagers. Some villagers defended Tyanada, emphasizing the cultural significance of his flute music and its intent to bring harmony with nature. Meanwhile, others sided with the settlers, believing that someone needed to be held accountable for the damage. The courtroom became a battleground where emotions ran high, and both sides prepared to present their cases. Tyanada found himself caught between two worlds. His love for music and his deep respect for nature on one side, and the anger of those who felt wronged on the other. As the lawsuit loomed over him, Tyanada found himself reflecting deeply on his connection to both the land and his music. For him, the flute was not just an instrument. It was a sacred extension of his spirit. He believed that every note he played carried the whispers of his ancestors, resonating with the earth and sky, inviting harmony where chaos threatened to reign. In times of storm and strife, Tyanada had always turned to his flute for solace. He felt that music had a unique power to heal wounds, both seen and unseen. To him, playing was a way to communicate with nature, expressing emotions that words could not convey. Each melody was an offering, a prayer sent up to the spirits, seeking balance and peace. Despite the accusations against him, Tyanada remained convinced that his intentions were pure. He had played not to summon destruction but to soothe a raging storm. It pained him to see how his art had been misunderstood and blamed for their suffering. With each passing day, Tyanada felt a growing urgency to share his perspective with the settlers. He yearned for them to understand the depth of his connection to nature and the healing role music played in his life. As tensions mounted, he hoped that through dialogue and understanding, they might find a common ground that could mend the rift dividing their community. As the conflict intensified, the community found itself deeply divided over Tyanada's actions and the settlers' demands. Supporters of Tyanada emphasized the rich traditions of Lakota culture, arguing that music had always been a means of connecting with nature and fostering peace. They believed that blaming him for the storm was not only unfair but also an attack on their heritage. These voices called for understanding and healing, urging everyone to recognize the power of art and nature's mysteries. On the other side, many settlers rallied together, convinced that accountability was necessary for restoring their livelihoods. They felt that tradition should not come at the expense of progress and stability. For them, protecting their families and securing their future took precedence over cultural practices they didn't fully understand. Debates erupted in town meetings, where emotions ran high as each group passionately defended their stance. As arguments grew more heated, some individuals tried to mediate between both sides, emphasizing the importance of finding common ground. They suggested that perhaps Tyanada could hold a public performance, demonstrating how music could heal, not just nature but also the rift within their community. However, whether this idea would be accepted remained uncertain as tensions simmered beneath the surface, threatening to overshadow any chance for reconciliation. The courtroom was filled with tension as both sides presented their arguments, voices echoing with emotion. Settlers filled the rows, clutching each other's hands as they awaited their turn to testify. "We lost everything because of that storm." John, the farmer, stood up, his voice shaking with anger and sorrow. He spoke about the destruction of the mill and how his family now faced hunger and uncertainty. Tyanada's flute may sound pretty, but it didn't save us. On the opposite side, Tyanada listened intently, heart heavy with sadness. His supporters watched as he prepared to share his truth. When it was finally his turn, he stepped forward and began to speak. "My music comes from a place of love for nature," he said softly. "When I played during the storm, it was not to harm but to calm. I wanted to invite peace." Throughout the proceedings, testimonies poured in from both sides. Some settlers pleaded for justice, while others spoke of Tyanada's cultural importance and the healing power of music. As emotions ran high, the judge struggled to steer the proceedings toward reasoned discourse. Both belief systems clashed in that room. One rooted in accountability and progress, the other in spirituality and deep connection to the earth. The air was thick with unresolved feelings as they all grappled with questions about responsibility, intent, and faith in something greater than themselves. After much deliberation, the judge ultimately ruled in favor of Tyanada, declaring that art and music should not be held responsible for natural occurrences beyond anyone's control. The decision sparked a mixture of relief and frustration within the community. While some settlers felt a sense of injustice and continued to voice their grievances, others began to reconsider their views on Tyanada's intentions and cultural significance. As the dust settled, many individuals realized they had been caught in a web of misunderstanding. The conflict had unintentionally opened doors for dialogue, allowing both the settlers and villagers to share their stories and beliefs more openly. Several settlers visited the Lakota community to learn about the rich traditions surrounding the flute, coming to appreciate the deep connection to nature that existed within Tyanada's music. In turn, Tyanada found an opportunity to embrace the settlers' plight, not as an adversary but as a fellow human being who understood loss and hardship. He gracefully accepted their interest in learning and offered private lessons on flute playing, hoping to foster mutual respect and understanding. Through this shared experience, relationships began to heal. Trust slowly rebuilt itself on common ground as community members celebrated together, realizing that diverse beliefs could coexist harmoniously if nurtured through communication and empathy. It became clear that embracing each other's cultures could strengthen the very fabric of their lives, transforming past grievances into a future filled with possibility. In the aftermath of the trial, the community began to recognize the profound impact music can have in bridging divides and restoring peace. Tyanada's flute once again filled the air, this time not just as a means to calm a storm, but as a symbol of unity among people with different backgrounds and beliefs. The public performance he organized became a transformative event, drawing both settlers and villagers together in a shared space of understanding. As Tyanada played, his melodies intertwined with the whispers of the wind, reminding everyone present of their shared humanity. The music spoke to emotions that transcended words: grief, joy, and hope, stirring memories of loss and resilience that connected them all. With each note, barriers began to dissolve as laughter and applause filled the air. Settlers who once felt resentment were now swaying alongside those who celebrated Lakota traditions. Children danced freely, embodying a spirit of acceptance that inspired their parents to reflect on their own judgments. This experience prompted conversations where fears transformed into curiosity. People began asking questions about each other's cultures, eager to learn rather than to blame. The realization dawned that while they may hold different beliefs, their hearts beat in rhythm with the same desire for community and understanding. Through Tyanada's music, they discovered that harmony was not just found in melodies but also in embracing diversity, cultivating a future where differences could be celebrated rather than feared. As the community moved forward, the lessons learned from Tyanada's journey became a guiding force for all. They understood that respecting and honoring tradition did not mean rejecting change. Rather, it involved adapting and integrating new perspectives while remaining rooted in their heritage. The rich melodies of the Lakota flute now echoed alongside the sounds of the settlers' daily lives, creating a harmonious blend that celebrated both cultures. Tyanada's music became a symbol of reconciliation, reminding everyone that their shared values of family, perseverance, and hope transcended differences. The villagers and settlers began to collaborate on community projects, using art and music to foster connections rather than divisions. Celebrations became occasions for unity, where traditional Lakota dances mingled with the settlers' festive gatherings, each enriching the other. This newfound collaboration instilled a sense of pride within the community, encouraging them to embrace their unique identities while working together toward common goals. They learned that empathy and understanding could flourish in diversity and that through respectful dialogue, they could face challenges as one. As they looked ahead, there was a shared belief that their unity would inspire future generations. Together, they created a vibrant tapestry woven from their stories, cultures, and traditions, a testament to the strength found in embracing differences and the enduring power of music to heal and bring people together. Hope blossomed as they stepped into a future filled with possibility, hand in hand.